the reasons for empire to start declining from, the good old days, okay? Why is it, and at what point you can see that based on the indicators that I have mentioned by the author, saying that in terms of all these indicators being reflected in the performance of the country, to what degree and to what extent and to what exact point the country will start declining. This is maybe something you want to think about as we go along. But you don't have to answer my question or comment on the issue that I raised right now at this moment. We can continue watching until we can talk about it at the end of the film. Go ahead. So the rationale being that if this, for example, this wealthy country, which we can call it a powerful country that is going down, and the first symptom that you can find out is that is due to overspending, and as a result of overspending, it will come over borrowing, and after over borrowing, it will come about over printing of the money, which cause the money to the value of the money to go down. And for that purpose, the inflation will come up. And the inflation, after inflation comes up, the standard of living of the general people will go down. They can no longer buy the thing that they used to be able to buy. So you have inflation. You have inflation. So the very causes you can find up to this moment, based on what the author had to say, is that because there is a decrease, a lowering of the standard of living of general public, the internal conflict arises to such extent it has to be resolved, hopefully, by workable mechanism being introduced that is acceptable to the general public, so that they come up with a consensus. This is what we're going to do, and we will agree that we're going to work together to get this over with. If not, a revolution may break out, which of course will give rise to some of the turmoils that we have seen in the histories of French Revolution, Soviet, Russian Revolution, as well as the Chinese Revolution. But all in all, if you want to trace back to the very root for causing all the things that will follow afterwards, is the fact that it's based on the overspending. Why is it that? But so you may want to think about why the crucial factor that gives rise to the overspending of a country, of a government, of the people as a whole. Why? Why it is something that is inevitable, according to the author, right? It's something unstoppable. It is inevitable. It is bound to happen if the country's currency is being accepted by all the rest of the world as a reserve currency. So the dollars, the money that I come up with as the greatest power in the world, that is tantamount. 英文tantamount 就等于了哈. It's the equivalent of gold, which is a hard currency that is acceptable by the entire world. Only based on this position that I can do whatever I want to start overspending, to start over borrowing, to start overprinting of the money, which constitute the very pinnacle of the power of the country going down. Let's continue on. I.e., raising the interest rate to such a degree that it could cause the recession to come about. But he already says in his statement two weeks ago that people may suffer. But all in all, this is something we got to do. Although people may suffer and people may lose their jobs, and a recession could come about. But this is the thing I want to do so that we can go back to the inflation. We can restrict the inflation rate to 2%, which is something I don't think that he will ever achieve. Although he may try very hard, but it's not gonna be easy. I don't think he will be able to do it. But the ultimate goal for raising up the interest is to get the inflation back to 2%. Why? You may want to think about as we continue seeing this film. Go ahead. Okay, may the force be with you. There's a catchphrase in that movie. So the reason for which I want to show you this film is to have, so that you know the world that we are seeing right now, and to give you some ideas from an economic perspective or economic point of view, to see what are the things that you need to take a look, to observe, before you can come to your own conclusion about what's going to come in Asia, in other parts of the world. For example, in terms of the conflicts that are getting intensive by the day between U.S. and China and Asia. So this is only one of the phenomena that we are seeing right now, which could really give us, people on Taiwan, serious trouble if we don't really think about and try to do something about it. However, it's not going to be easy, because we're, small countries are not supposed to have diplomacy, or small countries have no diplomacy to maneuver around for its own interests, which is, that's true. But you're all, to a certain degree, are government officials. Okay, so you may want to think about from a macroeconomic perspective to know in terms of Taiwan's relations with all the rest of the world, including all those countries perhaps we like, as well as those countries we may not like. But all in all those countries, I mean, they are de facto reality there, which you can never deny. And for that reason, one way or the other, you have to interact with them. Okay, so by signing up a treaty, by signing up a agreement, by creating 默契，对不对？ Sometimes everything doesn't have to be written on paper, but there are 默契 to be observed by the people involved. All these things, something you can see out in the open, something that you have to do under the table. But all these things, you can do all these things only after you know what Taiwan's position is and will be in terms of the global changes that is being what I'm looking for, the right word, is actually in terms of the situation in the entire world, actually, in my opinion, is critical. At the moment, and perhaps in a couple of years from now, we will see something big to happen, economically or politically, or for some other reason. Okay, it could be in Taiwan, it could be on the Taiwan Strait, it could be somewhere in Europe, perhaps in some other places, but things are getting critical by the day, so that you, as our government officials, okay, you have to a certain degree, have to think ahead in terms of the job you are supposed to accomplish when you interact with a representative of other government. Especially for purpose of my goal to show you this picture, is that you have the general idea about what's been going on and what will happen in this world. You may not agree to what has been said by the author, but you have to come up with your own opinion, saying, hey, after I have watched this film, I have collected the information that I need to know. This is the conclusion that I think that is what's happening, and based on this conclusion, this is what I'm going to do. From now on, whenever I'm required to talk to people from outside. So this is why is it that I want to do this film for you. So I like to hear from you to say, after watching this film, is there any judgment or any conclusion or anything that you want to share with the rest of the class? Please feel free to let us know. At least 40% of the people don't have significant savings to help them go through, for example, 3 to 4 months without a check coming in based on the work that they work on. So at least 40% of people in the U.S. are living on their life on a check-by-check basis. So if you see an unemployment rate reaching, for example, 7%, 8%, which could come about if the recession, okay, is right around the corner. If that happens, on the one hand, you will have this situation. People are saying that, what are you talking about? I have to abandon my house. I have to abandon my cars. I have no money to buy anything else. So that you have the recession. You have if you have the good thing is that you can have some cure. Or whether it's actually there's no ultimate cure for any inflation issue. You have some cure for the moment temporarily, so that because people don't have money, people don't want to buy. People don't want to buy that much, inflation rate goes down. That's the basic logic of doing this. So the employment rate is the thing you have to watch. I mean, for example, I don't know, next week or a week after that. If it stays on, let's say 3.5, stays on where it is right now, or 4, Jeremy Powell will continue raising interest. But if until it sees that unemployment rate reaching, I don't know, 7%, 8%, then perhaps it's the moment that he thinks maybe it's a time to slow down the raising up the interest rate. So this kind of, there's a cycle going round and round and round. So it happened just like what this guy says. It happened in 1930. It happened in 1970. It goes, so it will happen again. But there's no ultimate cure for everything. So the idiom that they use, boom and bust. Boom and bust. Boom 就是开花 ，boom 就是一下很繁荣嘛 ，bust 就嘣就破掉。Boom and bust, boom and bust. It's kind of economic cycle. It goes around and around again. It repeats itself every, I don't know how many years. But the situation is that, so you can see all these signs. But I think U.S. is trying very hard to catch up, to make sure that it doesn't go down or it doesn't decline very quickly, knowing that they have China, okay, catching up so quickly. So, most likely, if I don't know, but if I were the American, I would be desperate and frustrated, knowing that whatever I do in terms of things being adopted in the U.S., it doesn't really hit Chinese very hard. It doesn't, for example, maybe we can talk about all these things, all these measures being adopted by the U.S. 6 months ago, or being adopted right now, to be adopted in the future. All these things doesn't seem to have an immediate hit on the Chinese side. For example, you have added tariffs on the imports of the Chinese products. You have banned sensitive technologies being exported too. Actually, which we will talk about the latter half of this class, today's class or the next time. So we'll be talking about chip war. All these things, perhaps they may work, they may not work. We don't know. But these are the things are the right thing to do for the U.S. They just gotta have to do something. But whether they will, it's everyone's guess. Okay. So, any point? I mean, good point. Anything else? Closes a door, it will open another door. I think these things may happen in China if you want to block all the things that is right now that China needs for its internal development, for its international trade. Somehow, it will have to do something to remedy this situation being created on the U.S. side for the detriment of the entire Chinese and the Chinese society as a whole. For example, Huawei, in terms of, Huawei is buying lots of components from the U.S. Actually, Huawei are buying chips from not only U.S. but also some of the European countries. Now, because of the technology blockades or restriction, whatever you want to call it, they won't be able to get anything that they can use in China from their business partners in the U.S. or in Europe. They will somehow have to use some of their domestic companies to bear up the responsibilities. If U.S. continues to supply them with all the things that they need, they will not use all those, second class, not as good, small Chinese corporations to do the job. But right now, they'll have to use them. If they want to use, they have to use them. They have to work with them to help them with their technological progress to cope up with the situation. So you have, on the one hand, you are correct. Okay, U.S. is hurting Huawei. U.S. is hurting SMIC. No, I don't think anybody will disagree with that. But on the other hand, it could create a situation to the extent that all these Chinese companies are so desperate to get the things done, they have to come up with a way by working with their small and medium-sized companies in China, which in the end will make them from small and medium companies to become, who knows, a huge tech companies 5 or 10 years from now. SMIC did that. Huawei did that 10 years or 20 years. Who knows? BYD has become a huge, BYD is also a huge company. There's too many of them. So therefore, maybe to a certain degree, in the end, in China, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they will come up with several additional huge, I would say, not those software internet companies like Alibaba. No, those strong, hard scientific manufacturing companies. They make because those companies are the companies that China needs in terms of the U.S. banning of all the necessary technology they want to use in China to compete globally. So that may also, I just give you another perspective to help you with a thinking or thought about the entire issue. So maybe, so it's not going to be easy. On the other hand, you may want to think about what will happen in terms of the monetary, not only technological war, but also monetary war, which I think is being engaged by the U.S. too, against and the Chinese renminbi, because China is talking about making renminbi a kind of reserve currency, little by little in the future, so that most of the country will keep renminbi as in the basket of their reserve currency, little by little. If U.S. is raising the value of the dollars, they will run into a lot of difficulties doing that. But however, if that's the case, now that you have a situation that Xi Jinping is going to visit Kazakhstan, okay, 他们叫上合什么什么什么合 yeah. So where they will be meeting, the Chinese will be meeting all the rest of the country in that particular 上合组织, including Putin as the representative of Russia. And they are also talking about Iran, getting Iran participate to become a member of the 上合组织. If that has come about, if that become a reality, I think U.S. will need to think about it, because all these countries, they have oil, they have natural gas. They will give U.S. a lot of trouble if they can come up with a way to sell all these natural fuels within this particular group, including if India is interested. Is India as to play I don't know, perhaps not a significant part in that particular organization. But if India decides to go along with using renminbi to pay for the fuel or gas or oil imported from Russia to India or from China to India, they could give and they really mean something about to replace the U.S. dollars as a secondary reserve currency for some of the countries who need to import oils and natural gas from outside. I even think Saudi Arabia, maybe has become, based on what I saw on TV, Saudi Arabia has maintained even a better relationship with China and Russia than it is with the United States. What does that mean? We don't know. But this world is changing so quickly that you have to look at all these signs being depicted on TV or commented by some people. But most of us don't have that much time to collect all the information we need. But we have to pay attention to all these signs that could come up or could give rise to significant consequences. For example, we're talking about chips. Okay, next time we'll be talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and next time we'll be talking about fuel. All those. It's a fascinating topic that you need to dwell on, because the entire ecosystem of the fuel being used worldwide, I think it will quickly change in the next 20 years. For example, maybe 20 years from now, most people don't use petrochemical fuels anymore. They don't use, what do we call petrol? Petrol, 就石油了啊, petrol, and natural gas. They may even be able to use hydrogen as energy. But that's something most likely I will not be able to see. But you guys may be able to see that, for example, 20 years from now, people are consuming only half of the petrol fuels, with the other 50% that they use that they consume by the use of hydrogen energy. That could happen too. But well, if that happens, this entire global system, okay, in terms of the ecosystem with related to the fuel consumption, will largely be changed. That's all I have to say in this second class of this particular seminar. Anybody else who want to share his or her experiences in terms of the question that I just raised, whether or not, to what extent you see what will happen in terms of U.S. measures being adopted right now to stop itself from going to the downturn very quickly. Any remedies being used by the U.S. at the present, whether it will work, or some of them will work, or some of them will not even work. Or maybe you can because we have this seminar so that you can raise, if you come up with any issues comments you want to share, there are no restrictions. You can do that anytime. Okay, so there are no correct or incorrect answer. The point is that everybody can share or contribute. Okay, his ideas, his comment for the benefit or the welfare of the entire class as a whole. That is the real purpose for which we are gathering here every week, which U.S. doesn't want to see. But there's no way that he can stop it because. Go ahead. It's going to be hard unless from now on everybody wants to use the U.S. dollars. But if you continue sanction other countries, okay, so you continue blocking the trade being engaged or being considered important for all these countries. There's no other way for them to make a living, to make sure that their economies continue to be stable. So there must be a way out. There must be another window that should be open for them to access the outside world by using their own currencies. This is the way. This is something that they are doing right now. It appears to be a kind of informal coalition being formed among the Russian, Chinese, and Iranian, and perhaps even Indians, perhaps even Saudi Arabians. They may come up with agreement somehow saying that under such circumstances, under particular conditions, we can trade based on renminbi or rubles or some other currencies. But they have to come up with agreement by open agreement, or they may come up with a tacit understanding. Tacit just under the table things. But they gotta have to. If that happens, I think the U.S. should be concerned very much about what's going to happen, because in terms of the volume of the trade being concluded, being transacted among all these countries, that could mean significant world trade number. So we don't know how much would that be. If Iran, if Russia, if China, India, Saudi Arabia, in terms of the fuel trade, oil trade, if they agree to a certain extent that, well, renminbi can be used as a currency to exchange, then U.S. I think will be very, very concerned. And the Americans will not like to see that to happen.